I'll go from there. Perfect. Good evening, everyone. Bear with us a moment. We're trying to get one of our commissioners on. He may be having technical difficulties. On that note, good to see everyone this evening. All right. A little bit of a feedback loop going on. If somebody's got a TV on, there's State Rep Kelly Pease.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, Kelly.
Sorry, I'm a little late.
No, you're not late. We're just starting. We're waiting for one of our commissioners to jump in, but we're going to get this thing moving along. Okay, so it is 6:03 p.m. and I'm calling this meeting to order. We have about an hour and a half to work with, a little bit less because there's another meeting that I believe is supposed to start at 7:30. So we got to work through as best we can. Roll call. Jack Leary.
Yes, present.
Al Jaguar, present. We do not have Mark Rosati. We do not have Mark Goodness, our quorum. And Mark Rosati would be the city engineer. And I believe Casey Bruby said he was on vacation this week. And I don't see Steve McAleb, the emergency manager, but I know he's got a lot of things going on with the storm coming in. So with that, we'll move on to item number 3, public report participation. On that note, we have State Representative Kelly Pease. Kelly, I'm going to put you in on this point if you'd like. You have the floor.
Well, I appreciate that. So basically, Al asked me to come in because we've been talking about, I have to give a proposal to the chairman of the bonding committee, who was appointed by the Speaker of the House, to consolidate all of representatives' ask for the money, the ARPA money that the state is getting from the federal government. So I've been asking city leaders about what their priorities are. And again, I'm going to caveat this right up front that there's no guarantee that whatever I ask for, we will get any of it, all of it, or a part of it. So it's very early in the process. They're going to start having hearings coming this month now that they're going to finish up the budget tomorrow. So having said that, it looks like some of the biggest needs is to deal with the sewers and the dams and levees. So what I'm proposing to do, based on the feedback that I've received, and I could show you a couple of the slides. I'm still working on them to present in another week or so to that representative who's kind of heading this up for the speaker. But basically, I've kind of got it down to where it's going to be about hold on, let me pull up my little spreadsheet that I got going here. It looks like I'm going to be trying to ask for about a little over $10 million to take care of some of the sewer issues we have going on, improvements and pump station improvement. And it looks like we're going to come in and ask for about $11 million for Armbrook and the Powder Mill flood control dams, and to fix the failed drainage culvert for the levee, and plus cut all the trees and bushes down as Al has provided me that input. And then I'm going to try to come in with another, still working on the number with the city council and the mayor, but for some park and rec, try to update some of the fields, maybe put some turf on some of the fields for the schools, or the other park and rec kind of things that they've been wanting to do for years and they haven't been able to. Now, I've gotten little guidance about this. I've asked what people have asked for, and they said they've been coming in with between $10 and $30 million. So I'm like, okay, so I'm shooting to come in about 25 to 30 million. I figured you might as well go high. And if we only get 5 million, it'll be something, but you got to ask. Otherwise you don't get anything. So I'm going to try to prioritize this as I go into the meeting, or I'm hoping that they will come back to me and say, look, this is how much we're going to give your district. What would you like it on? Or maybe they'll just give it to us as a lump sum and we spend it as we want. But then it would probably go to the council and the mayor to decide. So that's about it. Al just wanted me to, I think, come in here and let you guys know what I'm trying to work on from my level at the State House, to try to get some of this federal money and probably try to take care of some of the bigger projects that we've been kind of, as one of the counselors said, kind of kicking the can down the road for a few years now. So unless there's any other question, that's kind of all I have right now. But I thought I'd give you a little update, and if you have any more input, I would say probably focus it to Al, and he'll provide it to me if we need to change stuff, and he can clarify what he's asked for. But I think that was pretty much what he spelled out for me, what I read to you. So if there's any questions, I'll take them. But yeah, go ahead.
When are you going to propose that? Do you have a deadline, a date?
Actually, it was supposed to be like a week ago, and I wasn't getting a lot of feedback from counselors there, but they're kind of, so I was able to postpone that meeting. So it's going to be a week from Monday.
Excuse me 1 second, State Rep Pease. If you could just go introduce yourself, Kathleen.
Oh, Kathleen
you.
Hillman, 179 Susan Drive. Sorry.
Thank you. That's okay. Thank you.
So the week, July 12th week?
No, I believe it's the 19th. Now,
The
hold on, you're gonna have to have me pull up my calendar to make sure.
No, that's fine. That
It's
is
the
true.
19th. The 19th
Okay.
is when I'll present it, but the speaker just came out today saying that they're gonna start holding public hearings about how to utilize this money throughout the month of July. So I'm gonna have my input from my district to the person that he kind of put on point to collect all the representatives' information on the 19th. So I have basically another week to finish up. I'm trying to put together 5 or 6 slides to say why we need this money, and then also to walk through what we need and kind of give the justification for it. And
Will you post that anyplace? The PowerPoint?
I could, but I hate to, because then people are thinking we're going to get that money. That's the danger when you say you're going to put into this money. It's like, oh, well, Representative Pease is getting us this money. And there is no guarantee that.
But you could say proposal.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, well, maybe
So people will know that you're looking for more than just the one thing.
right. I mean, and if I don't know if I can share my screen, I can kind of run through my rough draft right now, and it would be on the TV.
Thank you, Peter.
Is that okay, Al? Do you want me to
Yeah,
do that now, or would you
yeah,
rather come back?
If you don't mind, yeah, just if you want to put a few of them up there, that's fine with me.
Well, there's only a couple, but hold on a second.
Yep.
Let me get it. Let me get it up here, because otherwise you'll see a bunch of mess that I have. See how unorganized.
No, it's I understand the process.
I
It's a
got
lot of
more
work.
tabs open than I ever knew
Yeah.
what to do.
I know that feeling all too well. Yes, sir, Peter. Right. Right. I think, Kelly, you're just going to show a couple of the slides that you've prepared, not the actual ask, correct?
Right. I mean, and I could, since this is the flood commission, I could show you the flood commission slides, but hold on a second. Let me. Oh, I know where it's at. Okay. I have it on my OneDrive. That's the problem.
Peter, is this being broadcast?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, and I'm not going to, and I'm going to say that I haven't finalized the wording, and I'm going to provide more background. But let me.
That's fine. And Kelly, if you don't feel comfortable with it, that it's not kind of fine tuned.
I'll show you the one slide. That's fine. I mean.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to show that slide. Okay, so hold on a second. Oh, I can't do it because I don't have it in my regular PowerPoint.
That's okay. That's okay, Kelly. If you want to take it down, I think you've covered it pretty well.
That's kind of the rough draft, and I got another week. But basically, you can see that I'm just going to hit it. But in the beginning of the slides, I talk about how we're a gateway city, and what I learned is that as a gateway city, you're our tax rates are higher than a lot of other cities, being a part of the Gateway Caucus. And I'm going to pitch that hard to this person to say, look, at our tax rate is one of the higher, not the highest, but it's like 240 something out of 351 cities and towns. So we're in the, in the top. So I'm like, and most gateway cities are like that, so I'm going to pitch that hard to say, we don't have the money or the room in our tax base to take care of some of these bigger projects. And that's how I want to approach it, to try to get the justification to get the money. But we'll see how it works out. So.
Hey, Kelly, Jack Leary here. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, the Army Corps of Engineers have inspected the Little River levee a number of years. One is being developed right now, but it's in Washington, D.C. for approval. But the last one shows that the Little River levee is unacceptable and cannot perform its function. And there, I went walking with other people down there, and you'll see that most of it looks like a path through the tree to a forest, except for 550 feet, which was destroyed in 1983. The Army Corps built it to protect places like the United States Post Office, the Big Y, the Boys and Girls Club, South Middle School, our old DPW with the storage of fuel and salt and sand, etc. And all those are potentially going to be destroyed if we get a really severe hurricane. And if you look at it, it has not really received any attention over a long period of time, more than a decade. About a decade, a little bit more probably, the Wetzel River levee also has some trees growing on it. And the FEMA came in and said, remove them. And now FEMA has the power because they set up the floodplain, and that affects the insurance. FEMA is letting the Army Corps, more or less, because they're the one that built the levee, function as for controlling it. But they said, here's a key point. If any damage is done to the Little River levee, and we've got holes in the levee right now outside the 550 feet, then Westfield is totally responsible for repairs by federal law, because we did not meet the requirements that we signed in 1983 or what they call a local cooperation agreement. So we're in a severe case there where it's needed, money's really drastically needed. And that's important, I think, to note. Maybe you should get a copy of what the Army Corps of Engineers gave out last time and refer to them when you're doing something, that this is totally unacceptable and will not perform or function and does protect key areas. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and again, Al has been great with providing me a lot of information. Now, I did like the little tidbits you threw in there about protecting the DPW fuel storage, the Boys and Girls Club and stuff, but he's provided me with the whole floodplain and that was part of my talking points I'll have in my note pages, is that right now we cannot get insurance on this levee because of the current situation it's in. And I will drill that home, that we as a city, as a district, are totally liable for it. We don't have coverage, so we need to get this repaired and up to speed.
Well, I think also the federal post office, the only one in Westfield, and we're getting federal money coming through the state. If you're not going to protect the federal facility, a post office, then that should be kind of disgraceful.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm going to make a note right now that enlist that the post office, you got Boys and Girls Club, you got your local DPW stuff, that would be all totally.
Well, you got a school too, South
Right.
Middle.
And
South
just for clarification, that is the stuff that I kind of working to put together for you, Kelly. Just so you know, Jack, this is something that Kelly and I were talking about. I have a list of stuff with a little bullet point list and some details of costs that I'm sending to Kelly. And I was trying to get that together last night, but I got, as you know, I got kind of caught up with a lot of different things with the weather. So hopefully I'll have it done.
No, and that's great. And he has been providing a lot of information, and I look forward to it. And just like I've talked to Mark Rosati today about the sewer stuff, and I'm going to get a little more information from that. And then I also have to pin down the city about, because they had put that out about some of the park and rec stuff they'd like to revamp. And I'm like, well, all right, I need some good talking points on it. I don't want to go in there shooting from the hip. I want to go in there knowing cold what I'm talking about. So if they ask questions, I have my talking notes to hit the major points, and I can go into detail further if I need to.
Yeah, we'll talk about sewers, and I would refer also to it. We have a separation with storm water drainage. The two culverts are primarily there because of Punter Howells Road empties the water primarily into a ditch, and that has to go in the lower part of the two culverts in the levee and gets into the river. So actually, we're involved. The culverts are primarily not because of whatever levee's function to keep the river contained, but to get the stormwater drainage from Punter Hollow Road.
Now, is that the small bridge replacement?
No.
Okay.
No,
'cause I know
no,
Mark-
that's another
Okay, because
problem with Little River.
Mark's got that on the City View culvert replacement.
Yeah, no, this is, so if you were to go to the end of Ponders Hollow Road where the big Y and the post office is, where Broad Street actually turns into Ponders Hollow Road, you go down a little bit, that's where the levee is. And as Jack was describing, there's two culverts that have failed that I described to you that need to be repaired. These are totally separate. And just for clarification, we deal with the flood control infrastructure, not the stormwater management side of things. So there's kind of an overlap between areas, but this is a stormwater issue that goes through the levee, and you know, it's a little convoluted, pun intended.
Yeah. No, and that's what I told Mark today when I talked to him. I told him that I was getting input from you on the dams and levees. So he said, okay, I won't worry about that. I will focus on the drainage and the sewers and things like that for what he's trying to provide me.
Right. So yeah, this culvert issue is a flood control issue, but its purpose is to get stormwater out. So that's what Jack was trying to describe. But.
Yeah, and then also that we would talk about the sewers and drains. A lot of this water, when the levee fails, I'm talking about Little River levee, is going to go into, that's what's filling up the stormwater drains.
Right.
If that levee was protected and functioning as it should be, and it isn't, then you would get less water coming out because it would be contained within the river. That levee could fall apart very easily in a major hurricane because there's holes in the levee, there's non-functioning culverts, and I've talked enough, so you got the idea.
No, right. And I guess one other thing too, I'll put out there real quick, and then I'll let you guys get on with your meeting, because I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover is just where I'm at, what I'm trying to do, and how Al and I are working together, and you can provide input to him and to other city leaders if you're thinking of stuff. But one of the big things is that as we go forth with this, how fast would we be ready to start? How shovel ready are they? Not that they have to be, but if they are, that's one of the big points in this. They want to make things.
And that's exactly the concern that I had addressed with the mayor and city council about Little River Levee, is that we've been, with our budget, we had put in a request for a substantial increase in our budget to deal with this, to get it to that shovel ready stage. And Little River Levee really isn't at the shovel ready stage yet. So we are waiting on a grant that we applied for through the EEA, and we don't have a deadline on when that's going to come due, if we get approved or not. But the EEA grant was to cover the permitting and design costs for the culvert repair. And of course, we'd have to pay for the culvert repair itself afterwards. So we don't even have we have a guesstimate, or I'm sorry, not a guesstimate. We have an estimate of cost for the culvert design and wetland delineation work, permitting and such, was I believe about $75,000, and we'd put in for the EEA grant to cover that. If we get it, it'll cover, I believe it was what, 80%, Jack?
Yeah, we pay 20, they pay 80.
Yeah.
The key thing there is we are working to get the plans with Ty and Bond, but we don't have a big budget, and so Ty and Bond's been not getting the money to really move it along. We give them a piecemeal because we only have piecemeal money in our budget. So we need funds. So we are not what you call shovel ready, but we are preparing to be shovel ready if we can get enough funds to get Ty and Bond to be able to do the work. And it's not Ty and Bond's fault. I mean, we don't have the money to do more than step A, step B, step C.
Right.
We're hurting for money primarily.
Jack, if I could interrupt you. Hold on 1 second, Kelly. I just kind of want to get back to answering what I was, that question. So some of this money would be used to get the levee to the next phase of shovel ready, i.e. cutting the trees down. Because the biggest problem with the whole levee is we're about to acquire 6 parcels that we don't own, which we should have owned, and that comprises about I'm going to say 1,500 feet, might be more than that, of the levee that we don't own, that we should own. And then we need to cut down all these trees so we can actually have engineers come in and look at this thing and see what does it actually need. And that'll involve borings and other work. And then the actual repair phase after that would be a totally different expense. But cutting down the trees alone, if you figure, I don't know, I forgot what the numbers I used, but you figure it's going to cost about maybe $1 million to cut down all of the trees plus the permitting, maybe more. I really don't even know how to gauge it.
And that piece of it, I would assume would be basically pretty quick to happen. So, I mean, so in that point, I could kind of pitch that, and these projects can start going immediately just because you could start using the first $1 million to cut the trees and get it cleared, to get the engineers in.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? I'm just trying to, how I caveat it, because I want to let them know that, hey, we can start going with this to get money in the economy, hiring people to do this kind of work, you know?
Yep. And then the other 2 projects, Armbrook and Powdermill Brook dams, our cost share is 35% plus eminent domain and issues and permitting. And we're really waiting on Congress at this point to approve money to the NRCS to go to the next phase. So that is really, I mean, it for almost all intents and purposes, not entirely, it's ready. They're both shovel ready.
Okay.
Other than some stuff that the city needs to do to be prepared to get there. But the meat and potatoes of those 2 is sitting on Congress at this
No,
point.
that's good. And that's another, again, just another talking point I'm going to put out there to try to hit all the right buttons, you know, when I'm presenting this, you know, so, but all right, if we're good, I'll get out of your meeting and I appreciate the time.
I think we're good, Kelly. I know you've been in for a bit and I appreciate your time.
All right.
Thank you very much too, Kelly.
Thanks. You guys
Thank
have
you.
a wonderful night.
You too.
Have a good evening, Representative, and stay safe tomorrow.
Thank you. You too.
Stay dry if you can.
Yeah, I'm going to Boston tomorrow. But
Oh,
that's worse. Fun. Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, I see we have Steve. That might be our emergency manager, and I see another phone number ending in 459. Yep, it's Steve. And I don't know who 459 is, but if you're there, I believe it's what is it, Peter? *6? *6 to unmute your phone.
Yeah, sorry I signed in late. I was doing a traffic detail in Notre Dame. It was a 2-car accident, so I kind of blocked traffic until the PD got there, so I got up here late.
That's okay, Steve. That's okay. Whoever has the phone number ending in 4, oh, there we go. 459. Mark.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Yeah,
so back to roll call. Mark,
passcode.
that's okay. Roll call. Mark Goodness.
Here, finally.
Perfect. So we have a quorum, and we also have Steve McLeb from not from emergency management, but our emergency manager for the city of Westfield. Good evening, Steve.
Good evening.
Okay, so we do not have the city engineer here this evening, and we do not have Casey Bruby for DPW because he's on vacation. But Steve, if you'd like to make a report for emergency management, given all the wonderful things we have in store for us the next 18 hours or so.
Well, we're going to see how good things are flowing. Yeah, I've been forwarding you. I also forwarded to the DPW along, you know, what MEMA's been sending me about what they're predicting. We'll have rain all through the night. And then tomorrow they're suspecting we're going to have heavy, very heavy winds and 2 to 4 inches. So we could see some flooding. I'm sure you're out there watching the rise of the rivers and things too. So we'll see how this plays out.
Yep. Yeah, I'm fingers are crossed on this one, but it doesn't set up a good scenario for later in the season. Does anyone have any questions for Steve?
Steve,
No.
you got plenty of sand for the sandbags?
We'll have to go down to the city yard. We've got the sandbags. I got about 1,000 of them. So, hey, we'll just have to get them filled up.
The city yard, where? On Pounders Hollow?
I would hope that's where they'd have the sand.
Yeah, let's hope that don't get too flooded then.
Now, Steve, on that note with the sandbags, are these sandbags that you have in addition to what DPW has, or are these the ones that
Yes.
DPW has?
I have them in the emergency trailer up here, the shelter trailer. We have them in there. I think there's about 700-800 in there. And that's, yes, besides what the DPW has. Yes.
Okay, because Casey got some at one point as well. And I don't know if he got them from Jim Wiggs. I know Jim Wiggs had a stockpile of them at one point. So I don't know if that's where Casey got his, but Casey has a stockpile of them as well. I think he said it was under 2,000, but
Yeah.
Somewhere in there, I recall, yeah.
yeah,
So we probably have about just under 3,000 total.
right. I mean, we're not going to be
I've got 100
sandbagging.
here.
What's that, Mark? I'm sorry.
I've got 100 here.
Oh, there we go. I mean, we're not going to be sandbagging the tops of the levees, but this would be to plug up piping issues where water is seeping underneath the levees and coming up on the protected side, or sandbagging, such as our culverts, our failing culverts on Little River Levee. That would be the primary purpose for the sandbagging, or plugging off some roads that might see some high water coming down them. Not flash flooding, obviously, because you can't get there in time to do it. But if we have issues where water is backing up through storm systems, that'll come in handy to kind of contain those.
Well, this is a good time to, talk to the citizens of Westfield. I clean around my storm drain, and on my street where my storm drain is, you'll see the water flow down very nicely. And across the street where it's covered with leaves and pine needles and debris where they just don't bother, you see the water flooding. We've really got to talk to people about clean around your storm drains. It does help the water flow better. It's not going to be 100% sure if we have 4 inches of rain in an hour, but with like steady rain today, it will help to have that water flow down through the drains. It's not the city's job to go out and rake, the leaves off of the top, and they clean out inside. They take the covers off and pump out down there, the silt and everything. But, citizens really should, be a little concerned to just clean around the area, and it will help somewhat, with street flooding. So we got to try to educate them and get them out there and say, hey, look, we're all into this together. You all complained about it last Thursday when the streets were flooded, but, you can be part of the solution here. Clean around your storm drain so that there's free flow.
Exactly, Steve. And
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Something we got to work on.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's
I do that up here, Steve, too.
Yep. It makes a big difference. I see the difference on my street.
Yep. And it's just
Yep.
like in the wintertime, if you have a fire
fire
hydrant,
Fire hydrant.
yes, in front of your home. Sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied hearing my children in the background. If you have a fire hydrant in front of your home in the winter, you should shovel around it, because you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping your neighborhood, because if there is a fire and the firefighter's got to dig through however many inches of snow and ice, you're losing time on saving your house.
Yep.
So storm drains are no different. Go out there. It only takes a few minutes to clean it up, throw it in your trash barrel, and you've done a little something nice. Take a couple pictures, post it on Facebook. That's what everybody's doing these days.
Yeah,
Show people that you did something.
Yep.
We'd appreciate it. And if there's anyone out there that's watching this that does do that, send me a message, send me an email. I'll recognize you, because we do appreciate those things. That we're a community and we all are in this together, like Steve said. So
Yeah. Show us yours nice and clean and the water flowing, and show us your neighbors and it's not flowing.
Oh,
Well, that's easy enough to do.
how to make friends fast. Yeah.
yes. I won't say it, but anyway, does anyone have any other questions for Steve?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
We'll be
Hearing none.
monitoring, and I'll keep sending you whatever I get. Make sure you're updated, and we'll make sure it goes over to DPW, and so everybody stays updated. I know they're on alert. I had talked to Fran Kane earlier today before I sent him the update from MEMA, and he said he'd already talked to all the workers this morning and kind of put them on alert. So DPW is ready to jump out there and do what they have to do.
Excellent. Thank you, Steve. And I also fired off an email this morning
Yes,
with a similar statement to the mayor and city council, all the city councilors and all the department heads, notifying of the update from the National Weather Service on the storm, and to have their respective departments and officers ready to act if we should have a flooding issue.
Yep.
With that, we'll move on to bills. So I did get a couple bills that were very late in coming in our fiscal year, so they're kind of carryover bills. And I did sign for them as being kind of an emergency thing because they needed to get into the system to be paid out of last year's budget. So there was one bill for $210. That was for the recording of the notice of intent at the registry, Hampden County Registry of Deeds. So that was paid. And then we had another one for, hold on one second, I've got to find it.
Gas and electric.
No, I don't have that.
No?
$4,600 something to Ty and Bond.
Nope,
Yeah.
not that. No, it's $434.10, I believe is what it was.
Oh,
and
that's the
that-
additional one. Yeah, okay. I was looking
Right.
to an earlier one.
Nope, that one was paid. So yeah, $434.10, and that was for a project manager for 2.5 hours, $339, and a senior engineer at 25 cents for an hour for $39.30, and administrative support at 75 cents per hour for a total of $55.80. So coming to a total of $434.10. And that, again, that was for their support at the notice of intent hearing with the Conservation Commission. And those are our bills. They are paid. I do not have any other bills for July because it's early in July and this is a special meeting. So we do not have the gas and electric bill yet. And I would prefer to wait until our next regular meeting to address any future bills with Westfield Gas and Electric. That said, I have no other bills unless somebody has something regarding bills.
No.
Okay, moving on. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Old business. Powder Mill Brook and Armbrook Dam Rehabilitation Project update. So, based on, hang on one second. I can hear my daughter in the background having a meltdown at their dinner table. I apologize. Hold on one second. I have to mute. Okay, sorry about that. I had to sweet talk my daughter a little bit. So there's not much to report on Armbrook and Powder Mill. There was supposed to be a meeting and it was canceled. They're waiting for some more information to come in. And this is on the NRCS side. Some meetings that they have regarding as the project moves forward. Being in a new fiscal year, I expect to hear some more from Jim Lyons very, very soon. Especially with a lot of the bits and pieces moving, because as I said in a prior meeting, everything's starting to coalesce as far as getting all of our projects, our bigger projects together and getting them funded and started, actually breaking ground and doing something other than pushing papers. So that's pretty much it on Powder Mill and Armbrook flood control dams, unless somebody has something they want to add.
No, they were looking good when I went down there today.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, update notice of intent for tree clearing and debris removal on portion of Little River Levee. So as we've discussed ad nauseum, the notice of intent. So there is a few little areas that we have questions about before we can move forward on actually clearing the Little River Levee, or that piece of the Little River Levee that we're allowed to. It's not clear where the line is for the square footage that we're allowed. So I did reach out to Ty and Bond. Ty and Bond got back to me and said that there would be a cost associated with it. It's within the budget that we allowed because they definitely were under budget. And this was one thing that wasn't covered. So we don't know exactly where the edge of our zone of vegetative management is supposed to be. And that's where we're supposed to put the erosion wattles down for Concom. So I think because it's early, we need to discuss this a little bit more and get some costs. And I think at a regular meeting, we can actually vote on this and hopefully move forward. So our contractor can start work. Unless anyone has anything else to add to this, I'd like to move on.
I think we need further clarification on what is actually occurring around the toe of the levee, because one of the figures doesn't seem like they marked it to go even near the toe, only partway down the embankment. And other ones have reference to 15 feet from, but don't say which way to go. From where? Left to the river or right up the hill, up the embankment? So a little confusion there on my part. I tried to get somebody who's knowledgeable to look at it, and they didn't clarify it. Anything. They were a little confused too, I think.
Yeah. It seems to be a hole in the way it was put together, but it could just be a misunderstanding on our part. So anyway, moving on to, let's see, our flood control budget. Item 10. So our budget went forward and was passed by the city council with the cuts that the mayor proposed. And there was a proposal by Dave Flaherty through the mayor. The mayor was working with Dave Flaherty to put $150,000 back into our budget, or adding $150,000 to our budget, which was more than the $90,000 that was cut. And it died on the council floor. And then it was going to be put forward, and I'm not sure where it stands now, but that money, the majority of that money would have been put forward to or toward Little River Levee, because there's a lot of engineering and design work that has to be done. Permitting is a huge cost, and not because the permits cost a lot of money, but because it requires a lot of engineering and design work, and design and engineering studies on the environmental situation, because the levee is, well, it's along the river and next to wetlands. There's a lot of complications there that have to be sorted through by an engineering firm, and that does cost money, costs a substantial amount of money. So that's where a good portion of our budget's request was in the engineering portion of our budget. So I don't know if that's going to be resolved or come before the city council. But, you know, that's kind of a hang up on Little River Levee. But we also have potential federal/state money coming in for that. So there's a lot of things out there. Plus, as we said earlier in the meeting, there's also the EEA grant for design and engineering studies, which is, if we get it, that'll save us a chunk of change. If we don't get it.
Yeah, but Al, the only problem there is we don't know when that will come due.
Correct.
And therefore, we really can't go tying money up with tie and bond to do A, B, C, and D. Because if we spend the money out of this fiscal budget, which is like 2 weeks old or a week old, then we won't get reimbursed because we have.
Correct.
It won't be something that needs to be done. It'll be something we already did.
Correct.
So that's slowing us down to some degree also.
Yeah, and that's the big problem. It's like a game of pixie sticks, you know, or not pixie sticks. It's I forgot what it's called, but anyway, it's like pickup sticks or Jenga. You know, you can't do anything if you pull the wrong thing, then you got the whole thing comes apart.
Mhm.
So it's a little mess, but we're trying to work through it as best we can. Our budget, we've got to kind of discuss what we want to focus our finances on. I don't think we have the time left in this meeting to do it. I think at our regular meeting, we should discuss it more in depth. We don't have anything that we're ready to spend money on at this point, but we do have a lot of things that we need to do. And we need to figure out.
Well, I think one of the key things is to get the money so that Ty and Bond can complete the projects, diagrams, and schematics, so we can get ready to go out for bid through central purchasing. And that should be done, hopefully, this year's budget. And that's going to take up a big hunk of what was left in our budget after the mayor cut $90,000 out of, because that's the section where we would get that money. So I think one of the primary things is to get the work done with Ty and Bond, and with the full understanding of what they're doing and the agreement of what they're doing. And if it doesn't happen this year, those pipes are still rusting. and the trees are still growing. They
Right.
don't stop because we don't get our money.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we've got, so just to kind of go over it so folks watching have an idea. So we had requested $233,900 in our purchase of services, which was a substantial increase from prior years. And again, the majority of that was for engineering services. And I'll go through our numbers real quick. Mowing and grooming contract, 36,000. We have to pay that. That's money that we have to expend so that the levees and dams get mowed. So we don't have more trees growing on them. It's also conditional that as a requirement of maintenance that we do this on the levees and dams. Let's see, general clearing, $50,000. This is monies intended to cut down trees and brush, and it's part of our somewhat general maintenance / increasing maintenance of getting rid of chipping away at the stone of trees and brush that's encroached on the levees and dams. And then we have our Little River Levy dedicated funds, 25,000, which would go towards specific issues at Little River Levy. And the general clearing is, could go toward any of the projects, but we had kind of discussed looking at putting most of that focus at Little River Levy where it's needed most. Then the engineering services, which is a good portion of the request, is $100,000. And that, again, is because of all the environmental and design work that has to be done by a professional engineering firm. It's not something that the city engineering department can readily do. And it's an area that we have to be very cautious with because of the environmental concerns in waterways, natural waterways, endangered species, et cetera, et cetera. Then there is animal control. That's $2,500, and that cost is to reduce animals that are burrowing into the levees and dams because they're earthen structures, and we are required to deal with that. And unfortunately, it's one of the things we haven't been able to afford to do. And the hope was in this budget that we could start doing that. Then we have
That's a lot of bullets.
I'm sorry, what was that, Mark?
That's a lot of bullets.
Yeah. Then we have our emergency action plans. So all of our flood control structures have various emergency action plans. So in the event of a flood, everybody knows what to do. And there's certain things that in certain scenarios that have to take place. Now we are required to have emergency action plans for most of our flood control infrastructure. And realistically, we should have all of those. And one of the reasons we need to update them is because some of them are quite old. And in order to meet our requirements with the federal and state agencies that oversee various components of our flood control infrastructure, we have to have current ones. They can't be, 10, 15-year-old or more, or in a couple instances, non-existent. So the idea was to get all of them updated together, and that would not only satisfy that requirement, but it would also provide our emergency manager the emergency action plans so he can comprise a citywide emergency action plan. So we have a real substantial plan for the city in the event of a flood. And that's one of the biggest things that I believe Steve is trying to put together is this emergency action plan for the city, because nothing has really tied anything together in the past. And I don't believe we have any, Steve, you can speak to it if you'd like. We don't have a real emergency action plan for the city in the event of a flood.
The DPW does. I just came across it. It hasn't been updated, like you say, in so many years. The information is so outdated. In fact, I just talked to Fran about it today. I'm going to put it on a shared drive that he has access so he can update the contact information on it. He is the acting director right now, so he should be at the top of the list. And I don't know who their lead one or lead two is. So I'm going to talk with Lenore, get that on a shared drive. There's 273 pages that, the DPW for emergencies, and flood is part of that too. So
Okay.
I want him to be able to look through. I'm not going to email him 273 pages. So
No.
we'll get it on a shared drive. Once that's on a shared drive, you'll be able to look at it too. And hey, in your spare time, if you want to flip through the pages and see if there's something that should be added in there. Yeah, it needs to be updated. Our scent plan needs to be updated. I'm working on that. That's another 205 pages, again, outdated, way back to 2013, 2014. And this is part of talking with them. Hang on, I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, Steve.
Hang on, I'll put you on mute for a second.
No problem, Steve. So, yeah, so just kind of speak to that a little bit more. So the emergency action plans needing to be updated. You know, it's not a simple thing that we can ignore. It plays into a bigger picture, if for many reasons.
Okay,
But Steve-
that was actually one of our CERT members, Matt Warren. He wants to pick up his CERT bag. So,
Gotcha.
but anyways, yeah, I was saying, yeah, a lot of these things are so far outdated, like you're saying. And talking to the mayor, he, at one of the meetings that we had a roundtable a couple of weeks ago, he's talking about a citywide master plan, and that's having all of this information gathered together and on the city drive, so that when we have a situation, everybody will have access to go to a certain area, whether it be the DPW, the emergency management, or, you know, the fire department. You know, all these plans should be shared throughout the city. So he does have that in his future of this master plan, and so we'll work on that. We'll do the best we can to get it updated. A lot of paperwork, a lot of out of date information, a lot of new contacts. We've got to add a lot of new businesses in there and get them up to speed with what they need to do for us. And you know, same if they're in a flood zone. We've got new businesses down on Main Street. We really need to talk with them. The new Big Y gas station, we know that area floods. What do they have in store? How do they protect their tanks for flooding, keeping the gas out of the system? So got to go in person, talk with these people, and you know, get a plan together. You know, what do they do? So
There's a lot to it, Steve.
there's an awful lot to all department sides, and I think the mayor really wants to push this master plan where everybody does update the info, so it's out there and available, so that we do know when it happens. Last night, boy, it almost felt like an earthquake. I don't know if you felt it, but some of that thunder, that ground was shaking.
Yeah.
It was shaking. So
I'm glad you got that side of town.
it was pretty bad last night. So we'll see what happens with tomorrow.
Right.
Having the information available, having it ready, and having it looked over. So like you say, everybody knows what to do when it happens.
Right. Thank you, Steve.
Okay.
Moving down the budget, in this purchase of services, we had training for $400, and that covers all of the commissioners and the 2 open slots, which will be hopefully filled soon. So it would be all of the commissioners on this commission, all 5, for the Mass FM, Mass Flood Management Group, which is a statewide organization that's kind of organized through FEMA. It's an association of both municipal, private, and federal entities working together to kind of resolve flooding issues in the state, and a resource and toolkit, and of course involves training, which is something that Massachusetts has fallen way behind in comparison to other states, where the state of Massachusetts is very far behind in its flood control, its whole flood control picture, and a lot of things are antiquated as far as the oversight and governance of flood control matters. So Massachusetts has a lot of work to do, and I know there are various pieces being moved in Boston to kind of make this, they're trying to advance this this issue and try to modernize the way the state handles flood control in general. So anyway, so that's for training. Williams Riding Way Flood Control Pump Station Generator Services, $5,000. And that's the last thing in the purchase of services. So we've got to figure out of that $233,900 minus $90,000, and that's what we're left with. And we got to kind of decide what we're going to fix and not fix, not deal with, or minimize to fit within the budget that we have. So I think looking at the time, we definitely should move along. But that's something.
Well, we
need to
also
discuss.
have an operation and maintenance manual that required by the Army Corps of Engineers for Little River Levee, which we do not have at this time.
Correct. We don't have that. And as nice as it would be to get one, we can't really, it would be throwing good money after bad because everything has to get, well, at least the drainage conduits need to be fixed before we can put it together. Because if we do it beforehand and we don't actually know what we're doing and things change in the design, which they probably will, it throws it all out the window and we have to have it done again. So,
True.
and I think that would come in during the reconstruction phase because that would, I believe, be just a basic component of how that works.
So remember you went for the NOI with Concom
Yes,
and they asked you for, what is your plan?
right.
You had to
right.
draw one up.
Yes,
That would have been inclusive with the O&M, operation and maintenance manual.
right. And when,
So you got to have some reference there.
right. When Williams Riding Way Pump Station was rehabilitated, one of the things that came with it was an O&M manual, which was interesting in the tail end, but we did get a copy of it and there is one in the pump station. But anyway, so that's that part. Now I see Mark Rosati came into the meeting a few moments ago, so I'd like to just go back to item number 4, report from City Engineer Mark Rosati. Mark, you have the floor.
Sorry, has the meeting started? I thought it was at 6
Yes, sir.
o'clock.
Yeah, 6 o'clock. It's
Oh,
almost
here we are. We're late.
7.
Oh, geez, I'm late.
He's
Sorry
on
about
city
that.
time.
That's okay. It's been one of those days for all of us, I think.
I apologize. My goodness, lost track of time.
No problem, Mark.
I thought it was only 6 o'clock, but okay. Anyways, so what's the question at hand?
Oh, just report from the city engineer.
Oh, well, you had your agenda and, the NRCS canceled the meeting again. So we'll have nothing to report on that. We have completed the bypass, so that's good. And you were aware of that. Let's see what else we got here.
And just for clarification for everyone, that's the bypass valve, the sewage bypass valve at Williams Riding Way Pump Station.
Yep. I think we'll the other items of the agenda will cover.
Yeah, we've kind of gone through most of them.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yes. Kelly Pease was on earlier talking about the ARPA funds and his pursuit of that. Gave a brief overview of what he's trying to accomplish and some of what he and I had talked about over the last couple of weeks. And I've got one piece of information he's waiting on. I wasn't able to get it done last night due to the weather situation. So, because I was wearing one of my many hats down in Connecticut last night.
So Al, what are you, from what I understand from Ralph Figge and others, I guess you're looking for $11 million?
No. That's a number that Kelly had out there. I think that includes the sewers and storm drain issues, because when he spoke about it, that was included in it. The number I had mentioned to Kelly was 8.5, which would be $6 million to cover both dams, and that should be. I don't know if that would be more than enough. I know there was a number that was in the 5 area, but then there's eminent domain and permitting and.
Yeah, no, 6
additional
is a
costs.
good number, sure.
Yep. And then 2.5 in theory for Little River Levee to cut down trees and try to move move
You
forward.
just don't know on that, so that's
Right.
probably a good number there too.
Right. Which I explained to Kelly and I just went over a little while ago that because of the situation of the levee, we need to cut down the trees as a first step before we can do anything else, because you have to clear it so you can actually have somebody come in and do a design and engineering study on it to find out what it needs. And of course, that would be an additional future expense down the road.
Yeah, no, I don't think you should be cutting trees before you do the design. I think you should get the permit. You're going to need a permit to cut the trees.
Oh, yes. No, I understand that. And I had explained that. It's just that and again, this is for what Army Corps had told us multiple times in the past, is to get a baseline of what the levee is going to need. You're going to need to clear the trees and brush out of there so you can actually see what you're working with.
Yeah, understood. But I think, I think the commission's direction at this point in time has been to approach the problem of the culverts and try to get those cleared so that you have better sense of the design. But I think your next step should be to award a larger overall contract to Ty and Bond so that they proceed with a bigger picture. I think, when next time you go to Conservation Commission, you really should have, this is where we need to go. And here's where we're at, and here's how we're thinking of approaching it. And
Right.
so I think Ty and Bond is, again, I think this could have been done, last fall, but again, various items came up. So, I mean, I would think that at this point in time, that's what the commission should be focusing on, is getting Ty and Bond under contract.
I brought that up earlier in the meeting, that should be one of our key places where we focus attention and our limited assets, because that is a very important part. And I made that point earlier, Mark.
Thank you, Jack.
Yep. So I was just giving a bigger overall picture for the 2.5, Mark.
Yep. Yep.
So, because we're running down, we got about less than a half hour left, because I know there's another meeting to follow after us.
Okay, sorry.
Also, oh, that's okay. Also on that, the EEA grant. Have you heard anything further on that? I haven't heard anything.
Which grant would that be?
That was the EEA grant for permit and design
Uh,
of the drainage culverts, the one that we applied for.
No, I have not heard anything further.
That was one of the holdups in this, because if we expend the money and then we get that, my understanding is that if we spend any money, it wouldn't be recognized as a contribution.
I see. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the 20/80 split. So if we spent it outside of that being awarded, then we would basically lose that money. It would be, a reduced amount that would be covered.
Yeah. I mean, we did apply for another grant with EEOA through DCR, and their indication was that they were going to come out in July or around the July timeframe as far as announcing of grants. So I would hope that you'll hear shortly.
Yeah, that's what my understanding was, but I've heard a couple different things and slowdowns
Okay.
because of COVID. So, anyone have any questions for Mark?
Oh,
Nope. I'm gonna leave them alone today.
Steve, you have any questions?
No questions. It's a slow process. Like you keep talking about the permitting, what they require you to do to go forward. So it's one step forward, 6 steps back, to get the permits. And
Right.
You guys are always fighting uphill because, like you say, you've got to go through the Conservation Commission, and you've got all these other, loopholes that you have to satisfy before they'll issue anything and say, okay, we'll let you do this. So it's just, you have a tremendous amount of work just to go forward. And I understand what Mark's saying. What he's telling you too is it almost kind of has to all come together at once, but it's impossible to do it. You do need the plan laid out, but as you're saying, you need to clear something so they can see, and it's just a whole lot at once.
Right. And, as Army Corps, Andrew Catano from Army Corps said to me, back when he was the levee safety manager, he said, the thing is that as this stuff slowly deteriorates, it gets more and more difficult to correct the issues because there's more things you have to deal with, So, I mean, we have to deal with the local, the state, and federal permits, Army Corps, chain of command with projects. There's a lot of stuff that's, good times. But anyway, all right. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Steve. Moving on. Let's see. Contract bid for mowing and grooming of the flood control properties. Actually, Mark, if you could speak to the contract, where we're at with that. I know it's going out at some point in the near future.
Yeah, I believe it's out to bid currently. So I think, I'm not sure what the delivery date is on that, but it is out to bid. Can you enlighten me on your communications with LaBelsic? Because I don't know, for the last couple of months, LaBelsic hasn't been responsive to us.
Okay. I know Ed had surgery on his hand. He was having a lot of problems. And then Casey had spoken with him, and I had spoken with him prior to that. And Joe was ill. He was having some kind of illness, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on. I haven't had any conversation in the last, I'd say the last 3 weeks. I had updated him on where we were with the notice of intent, and that was the last conversation I had, and that wasn't a verbal conversation. It was pretty much just a quick text message, just let him know we moved forward. So I do plan on calling him. Is there something specific that
Well,
you?
so we have a problem, I guess. I mean, for the last 2 months, he hasn't been responding to our communications, either by email or telephone. He is under contract to be clearing the levees and the flood control structures, and by by the order of conditions from the Conservation Commission relative to the Westfield River levee, he should have completed that by mid-June. So he's past that. So he's missed that grooming opportunity. And he didn't fulfill it in the fall. He didn't complete the grooming in the fall. So we're out to bid. I mean, if he's low bidder, I'm not going to be able to recommend award to him.
Okay. Now, when you're talking about the work, you're referring to the Westfield River floodway, correct?
To the floodway, I mean, his contract includes the Westfield River levee floodway. It includes the Armbrook and the Powder Mill.
Right.
Dam.
Right.
I see he's mobilized some
I
equipment, but it's like he's not paying attention to the order of conditions.
Right. And it could be because of his illness. I don't know. I will reach out to him and find out what's going on. I know, like I said, Casey had spoken to him, but Casey's on vacation this week, so I don't know what Casey's communications may have been.
Okay, but like I
as of
say,
recent.
we have attempted communication, and it should be the channel that he should be responding to, and he has not responded to it in months.
Okay. Like I said, I'll reach out to him. I don't know if tomorrow would be a good day, but probably Monday, and see where he's at, or over the weekend, and see where he's at. So.
Thank you, Al.
You're welcome. Okay, moving. Actually, does anyone have anything else on the contract?
Well, the only thing with the mowing contract is that $30-something thousand right now, but that was set 3 years ago. Who's to say the cost isn't going to go up higher, even with the low bidder? Because you got more fuel costs, you got more salary increases, workman's comp, things like that. So I think the money we had in the budget was based on 3 years ago, and I don't see it coming in at that. I see it coming in a little bit higher, maybe even more higher. Well, I'll forbid, we won't know until we get it, but we're going to get clobbered in our budget again, I think.
Yeah, fuel's just about doubled in the past 3 years.
Yeah, that's when the price was set 3 years ago. So the new bid is going to be, for a period of years, they're going to be careful that they don't go too low so they lose money, whoever the contractor is.
Right. Right. And that'll chip away at our budget as well. So.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to new business. Flash flooding event on Thursday, July 1st, 2021. So last week, as everyone's aware, that the city of Westfield filled up like or the downtown area of Westfield filled up like a bathtub. I know there was a lot of people that were very upset, and I can't blame them. The water has nowhere to go. So to give a brief breakdown of what happened, depending where you were in the city of Westfield, primarily the center of Westfield and the southern portion of Westfield got anywhere between 2.5 to 3.5 inches of rain in about a little less than an hour, which is a substantial amount of rainfall. That's why it's a flash flood. And I know a lot of people were upset that culverts were, clogged, storm drains are clogged, and I'm sure there are some in the city that are, but for the majority of the system, it's not clogged. It's just the system, and I can't even think of a system in New England that could handle that volume of water in that short of amount of time. And maybe Mark wants to speak to it a little bit, but it's.
I agree with you, Al, in that you have that much precipitation in that short a period of time, it's all landing on fairly flat roads. I mean, so then it, once it hits the ground, it's following the gradient of the road to get to the structures that receive it, and they're pretty flat. So yeah, no, it doesn't clear off quickly. It's not like they're at a steep slope and it runs right into the drainage structures. It has to find its way to those structures, and that's design. I mean, Mass DOT's designs are to a 10-year storm. I mean, you're talking 2.5 to 3.5. You're talking higher than a 25-year storm.
Right.
So, yes, you had ponding on almost every road downtown. Every car, and I had a meeting at 6:30 that night with the city council. So I was in it and I drove through it and I saw that the water had levels on the roads in general was up to the curbing, which is generally 6 inches or so, maybe a little less in height. So, I mean, you had that much water on all the roads, and it wasn't, like you say, necessarily the drains were clogged. It was just the water getting to the inlet structures because it came down so fast, and it lasted about an hour, the ponding and cars having trouble. But if you could, please, I don't mean to interrupt, but if you have more to say, particularly about the flood control pump station, I hope it performed appropriately.
Yeah, I do, and you're not interrupting. So, the throughout the downtown area, even on my street, and I live on the south side of town, I had a pretty close to a foot of water when it got going, running down my street. And I know there were other parts of the city. I've got plenty of videos that were shared to me and sent to me and put on Facebook of like Bartlett Street was a big area of concern. There was, several feet of water. I know there were some areas that had four feet of water. Meadow Street, the typical area that the lowest spot in the city that fills up all the time. There was quite a bit of water there. And I commend the DPW because, when go ahead, Mark, go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, I mean, I concur, but, look, as I understand the pump station, you have what we term a smaller pump relative to what's in the pump station, but it's a pretty significant sized pump.
Right.
So when to my knowledge, water should not be surfacing on Meadow Street without that pump performing. So I'm wondering, so what did the pump station do?
So what we have here is when I got there just after the storm really started to slow down. I mean, it was still raining pretty good, but the worst of the rain had stopped. I got there, Steve showed up, Mark Goodness was there, and Eric Lacombe was there jogging the pumps, and he was he was alternating through the pumps, turning them on, turning them off, because the sump was running dry, running down to a low point. But in a 10-minute operation of the pump station, the Williams Riding Way and Meadow Street, that whole vicinity, the water dropped, I would say, just under 4 feet of water disappeared in 10 minutes of operation.
That's good news.
Right.
So he was, when you say jogging, he was alternating between the major pumps?
Yeah, he was operating the system. And
so was the smaller pump not able to keep up? Is that the idea?
Here's what I got for numbers. So from Ken Gagnon, by calculations, 0.3 of an hour at pump 1, 0.2 of an hour on pump 2, and 98.5 minutes on pump 3, 750,000 gallons with the two large pumps, plus 295,000 gallons with the small pump, for a total of 1,045,000 gallons of water. And that's estimated based on the time that they were run.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a substantial amount of water. And when you look at 3.5 inches of rainfall, that's 3.5 inches of rainfall roughly per inch. You start adding up that volume of water, you're talking millions of gallons of water that fell.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, kudos on operating the larger pumps, and I'm glad to hear that the surcharge in that area. It was gone in like 10 minutes. I mean, it's
Right.
working, and people are working, and that's really encouraging. But I guess the smaller pump was not able to keep up, which is, I guess I'm surprised. I'm just
Well-
surprised that it was such an inundation of rain event intensity.
There is one thing that Jeff sent me, and I'm looking for it. I had it here a minute ago because I've got a lot of different paperwork in front of me here. So we had talked about this when we had the flash flooding event in, I think it was 2017 or 2018. I forgot which year it was. We had another flash flood event, which wasn't to the same extent. But this is what Jeff sent me, and this concerns those duck, as we call them, duckbill backflow prevention valves, the big rubber valves.
Yeah.
Hi, Al, and this is what I was going to bring up. Hi, Al, thank you. Just as an FYI, someone might want to contact a professional to assess the functionality of the Tide Flex backflow preventer valve inside the concrete discharge structure on the gravity stormwater pipe. I believe that the Meadow Street area floods more than it should under high intensity rainfall due to the backflow preventer valve not opening up as it should under waterhead, as I believe the valve is very stiff with no flex to open to allow outward flow. And again, that's from Jeff Gamelli. He just sent
Yeah.
that to me the other day.
Could you forward that to me? Because yeah, we'll
Absolutely.
certainly have that looked at. Yes.
So yeah, I was planning on doing it and discussing it tonight as we just did. So and I know we discussed it in the past, and you know, he feels that's kind of the plug in the issue. And then another thing I'd like to, and I don't know if and I haven't said anything, I wanted to consult with you with tonight, was possibly have somebody open up the sump area and take a look in there to see what kind of debris ended up in there, because I know, I forgot how many years ago it was, but when it was operated before the rehab, we had bricks, and Casey had gone in there within the last 5 years and cleared out bricks and all kinds of debris from the sump area that had fallen in from the upstream sewage systems. And I'd be very interested to see what kind of debris has fallen into that.
So the
Sump
phone
area.
numbers that I'm looking at as far as participants, neither are Casey. Is that what I understand?
Yeah, Casey's not here. He's on vacation
Okay.
this week.
So Kate, that would be a question for Casey. Yeah,
Yeah.
as you've indicated, that was my understanding. Casey had cleaned that out. I would not think that the thing had filled up with any that amount of debris, but to have it looked at, that would be a question for Casey. Yeah.
Yeah, because my concern is that if any of the upstreams, the older upstream sewage stuff, storm drain, the brick line stuff crumbled, because he had found bricks in it when he did the clean out. I'd just be very curious if there's more. So that's pretty much that. I will forward that
So
to you.
understand that, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I understand that bricks in the storm drainage system aren't necessarily the brick lined piping. More likely, it's part of the drainage structures, either the catch basins or whatnot. I mean, generally, you'll find every year, certain catch basins sink in the roadway, and they're leveled off there at the right height with bricks, and because they're getting the dynamics from the road traffic, bricks do come loose. They do find their way into the drainage system. So more than likely, if you find a brick in the drainage, that's where it's from, but that's not certainly not a absolute. It's certainly something to look at and to think about.
Right. Thank you, Mark. Bear with me 1 second. I just want to read one thing to all of that, this is what I sent to Jeff and the mayor, and a few others were CC'd on this email. Hi, Jeff. Firstly, thank you for what you guys did last night. I know people are looking to blame everyone for the flooding. I've done all I can to support you guys, because no storm system can fully handle that kind of volume in such a short time. I was on the phone with Rob Macedo at the National Weather Service, Norton, and drove around looking at the flooding myself, because it helps me understand what to expect when we do have something greater than just a flash flood. You guys did a great job, and folks, I wish folks could appreciate what you've done. And then there's some other stuff about where the water came from, which isn't worth reading. So I am putting together a report on this that I will be, hopefully, I wanted to send it in tomorrow, but given everything that's going on, I think I'm going to have to follow it up with a second report. So next week I'll be sending in at least one report for this flash flooding event, and then a subsequent report on Tropical Storm Elsa. Hopefully we weather it fine and it's not as substantial. So that's that piece of new business. And Mark, I will forward that to you and give me 2 seconds here and I'll send it to you right now.
Yeah, Al, you mind if I say something, Mark?
Sure, go ahead.
Well, Mark, I think the drains did the best they could. I was stuck on Main Street by Noble Street. And there was about 10 inches of water there with the heavy rain. But as soon as the heavy stuff subsided, because there's cars there stuck and I got behind them until we get a hold of PD and get, tow trucks down there. And as soon as the heavy rain subsided, within 20 minutes, that water went below the curb level. And within a half an hour, you were back into just about bare road. So, I mean, it was doing its best to handle that amount of water. There was so much. But I think the drains were working, to their maximum capability.
Yeah, Steve.
They could.
Yeah, I think to your point, Steve, I think, yeah, I mean, I think so that I think points to that it's not necessarily a capacity issue with the system, but that again, the road was coming down so quickly that you're hitting the road, and the road is at a very slow pitch, obviously, to get to those drainage structures comparatively, and so it took time for the water landing on the road to get to the inlet structures. But again, once it got in there, it was being taken away.
Yeah, it was.
So I think it was good that I think the drainage system was working well.
I agree.
I just wonder about that lower Meadow Street. Yeah.
Well, you had everything rolling off of everything.
But I think Al's
going down the hill to the lower level there. So
right. And another thing, you literally had a wall of water flowing down the roads. Sorry, Mark.
Yeah.
I cut you off.
I had gotten the reports from the Western Ave neighborhood that the water was actually coming out of the storm drains in certain areas there, where sort of it was going in the upper areas of Western Ave, and it was then being pushed out because of capacity issues in the system in lower areas. So, I mean, that's something I think we will pursue and look at as far as, are the drains clean? Are they working well? And what the story is there. But I had gotten those reports. Yeah.
Right. And, some of the stuff that you have to consider is, and this goes to some of the reports that I got from people who actually drove into it. In fact, I know one person's daughter drove into what was literally a wall of water that was rolling down the road. And that's what happens in a flash flood. The water collects on the ground so fast and on the roads, paved surfaces, and runs off, and literally is a wall of running water. You're basically driving into a river. And I have videos of Broad Street flowing like a river, multiple streets flooded, flowing, because that's what happens in a flash flood. And you've got to look at the amount of pressure and the speed, the velocity of that water running into those storm drains. And then it had to have been surging through those storm drains. Unbelievable. So like you said, the capacity it's at capacity, and it's just got nowhere to go. So it starts coming out in other places that are lower in the stream system or drainage system. So,
but again, that was to my knowledge anyways, was in limited areas, again, where you had the sort of the highlands of Western Avenue, and it was reflecting down into, as you get into the lower areas of town. But as Steve was indicating, you're over on Main Street. Mm-hmm. Again, once the event ended, it went away pretty quickly.
It did. Yeah. I mean, Broad Street was clear when I got to it, but I have, video of it flowing at least 6 inches to a foot of water, and more in some of the areas, where the passages underneath the rail trail there on Hedges Road or Hedges Street by the Masonic Building, there's, you know, it literally is taking a 90-degree turn there and flowing down toward the center of town. You know, I saw pictures of pretty much every street from Silver Street to Orange Street, Bartlett Street, Picca Street, even in front of the police station. Even the complex across from the police station had, you know, at least 6 inches, if not more, water in that parking garage area underneath.
So all the rubbish barrels floated. All the rubbish barrels actually literally floated.
Yeah, there's video
I'm
of
not
of a-
surprised with that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, the whole downtown filled up with water, and that's what you expect in a flash flood. It's just an overwhelming amount. And again, going back to what I was saying in the beginning, because we're running out of time, I commend the DPW. I know phone calls were made. Eric Lacombe was running the pump station, Jeff Gamelli, and I forgot who else, and I apologize. I think it was Ken Gagnon. Yeah, I think he was there, and maybe somebody else at the sewage plant running stuff over there. And a handful of people from DPW. Well, a bunch of people were called in, and there was handfuls of people from the DPW staff that came in the evening on a call, and they were going around as fast as they could to clear storm drains that were clogged and try to move that water. And I know Westfield Fire, Westfield Police, and Steve, myself, I mean, and there are other, you know, just citizens trying to help other people out. Everybody was kind of pitching in and doing what they had to do, and that's, you know, that's nice to see. So it's, you know, everybody deserves a good pat on the back. There's, you know, people want to blame others, and I don't think it's fair to be pointing fingers in this situation. It's, you know, it was a tough position, an unexpected position, and no storm system, especially ours, isn't capable of handling that volume of water. So I'll kind of end it there.
Well, if you saw the news, Chicopee was hit twice as hard as us.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know? So you want to point things at somebody, you got to point at Mother Nature, because she's the one that dumped it.
Exactly. And, you know, our city is built on a floodplain, and like Mark said, it's relatively flat. The water gets to a certain point, it's got nowhere left to go.
From what I saw, though, the drains handled the water as fast as they could.
Yep.
You know, I think it was a timely manner. That's just my opinion. But sitting there watching the water recede as the heavy rain stopped, I mean, it did it. It did what it had to do.
Right. All right. Moving along, because we only got a couple minutes left. Communication. So I have a few communications to read. I have one from Franny Bui at Compass, which is the FEMA/Compass contractor group, regarding the floodplain maps, the updating of the floodplain maps and risk maps for flooding. FEMA is getting very close to releasing those new maps. This affects the FEMA NFIP insurance maps and flood zones and flood risk assessments. Sometime this month is a rough timeline when they're going to be putting together a meeting with the city and other municipalities in this area regarding this, but I don't have a set date. They were still trying to iron that out. I know Jeremy Siegel had some communications with Franny Bui as well regarding that.
Yeah,
Let's see. I had communication from Jennifer Todd at Army Corps. She was inquiring about where we were at with the project so far. I kind of gave her a basic rundown. There was a question if we were using any herbicides to kill invasive vegetation such as bittersweet. And I said no, we were not using any herbicides because of multiple reasons. And then she informed me that their portion, the local, when I say local, the regional Army Corps levee safety managers, part of the inspection is done. They've submitted it to their chain of command in DC, and they're reviewing the inspection report, and we'll make any changes or updates to it. And then hopefully in the next month or so, we'll get the actual report if all goes steady. She expected it to not take a very long time. because we were one of the first inspections they did this year on Little River Levee. So we'll have that coming. We have FEMA coming. Hopefully we'll hear something from the NRCS and Jim Lyons on Powder Mill and Arm Brook with the new budget year starting. And I believe that's it. Other than the storm, as Steve said in the beginning of this, Tropical Storm Elsa. There's been a lot of updates. Thanks to Steve, I was in on the MEMA / National Weather Service meeting earlier today, giving an update to all the municipalities in the state. It doesn't look as bad as it could be. And excuse me 1 second. Okay. Yeah, I see you hit your earring, sweetie. Okay. Come here. You're okay. Okay. So to close it up.
Can I have a kiss?
Yes. To close it up, everybody should just be aware, pay attention to NOAA Weather Radio or your local media for the updates on the storm. There is a flash flooding risk. We're in a flash flood watch. There is potential flooding risk, although the National Weather Service forecast for the river, the Westwood River watershed was low, despite the fact that the ground's saturated. The flood risk for the river itself is on the lower side. The Army Corps of Engineers has done a good job releasing water at Knightville and Littleville dams to keep it down. So hopefully we won't have any heavy bands or any training of these storms to drop exuberant amounts of water, similar to what we saw last Thursday. But that is entirely possible. So folks who live in low-lying areas should prepare themselves for the possibility of flooding and ponding on the roads. And just stay tuned to your local media sources. If flooding should occur, move to higher ground if you can. And if you see water in the road, turn around, don't drown. You're not going to drive through 2-3 feet of water, especially if it's moving. You're going to end up stuck and putting yourself at jeopardy. So I should add that there's also a slight tornado risk, and that's associated with tropical weather, and that's normal. So again, pay attention to your local media outlets for updates, or a National Weather Service or NOAA Weather Radio for information. And Steve and myself have been keeping the city up there, the mayor and city council and departments updated as to what's going on. And God willing, the city will move through this, and we'll move into the later half of the summer without any tropical weather, and we'll get through another year without any major flooding. That said, does anyone have anything to add under observations?
Well, I'll send you the latest one that came out at 6 o'clock, Al. Right now, it's 300 miles southwest of Atlantic City, heading this way. As you said, tornadoes possibly expected in the morning to early afternoon. So I will send you this latest one that they just sent me at 6, and giving us a new update track of what's happening. But it is fast moving, so it should be out of here by later afternoon, 4 o'clock or so. So that's what they're predicting, fast moving. So I'll forward this over to you right now, and to Fran and the mayor as well.
Okay, thank you. And that's a saving grace on this storm. It looks like it's going to blast through this area pretty quick. So it'll save us from too much heavy rain. So on observations, anyone have anything they'd like to add?
All the dams and the pump station look good. I checked them out today.
Excellent. And thank you, Mark. We appreciate that. We all take turns kind of checking on various components of the flood control infrastructure. And, the rivers are low. We're not expecting anything serious to come. There may be some minor flooding or street flooding, but nothing substantial from the rivers, unless Mother Nature steps in again.
Al?
Yes.
Mark Prasadi here. A question on Little River Levee. You had conversations with Army Corps. They inspected again this year. I think I had seen some communication from them. They were going to be changing their frequency on inspections. So are they on a 5-year interval for Little River Levee?
No, they're still working through that. Right now, we're still on the current plan. And they were discussing whether or not to, and it's still working through the chain of command. The Army Corps is looking at longer intervals, but if we want for our own peace of mind to have more frequent ones, we were welcome to do that. And the commission had discussed this previously and voted to do them more often. Similar to what we've been getting, where they come every year or every other year, but this is still kind of preliminary. They haven't moved on to that yet. And the only reason why we want them to come and look at it more often is so they can do an assessment and we get basically a free engineering study for what's wrong with the levee.
Thank you, Al.
Thank you. When that actually goes into effect, I will, of course, make that known to everyone. But right now, they're still on the current system. And with that, I'll call for an adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 7:32. So moved.
Okay, Jack got it first. My goodness.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for everything you've put in, and I appreciate your time. And Kathleen and